Hello, this is Greg House from Green Greg's and Galactic Greg's Swivelhead News. Here to explain the updates on this balloon. Guys, I have balloon expertise. I have launched a number of balloons similar to this, quite a few balloons in my career. So I'm going to tell you about this. We now know who probably made this balloon, the company, the institute that is, which is the Aerospace, it's the Aerospace Information Research Institute, AIR. The Chinese Academy of Sciences. But we do believe this is a recon balloon, a military intel recon balloon, not a weather balloon, as the Chinese have maintained. So I'm going to go all into that. There has been comments made to that by our DOD, and I still submit this could be a EMP device or a dry run for a future EMP event. And I'm going to explain how and why that could work. And I've got a lot of different people and why I think this is not biological. I'm going to lay all that out to you. So bear with me. I'm going to show you the Institute, some stuff on this first. We're going to do a share screen, bing, 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 bing. And here we are, guys. This is an article from Interest in Engineering. This guy, this balloon, I'm not sure this is exactly the balloon they're showing us is actually one of them, but it would inflate very similar to this. It would look a lot like this. This is claimed to be a scientific balloon. Okay, that could be any scientific balloon. They've all looked similar when you're inflating them on the ground. Now, I prefer to do mine from a boat, but you probably know why. So this would be a balloon payload here. This payload, this balloon is huge. It's got ginormous solar arrays, a lot of power. But what's interesting is this thing can carry 1.2 tons, so-called scientific payloads, up to an altitude of 18 miles or 30 kilometers. Now, that is very significant. This test was done on the 30th of September. Now, the one that we're watching over the United States right now is not this high. It's actually about 60,000 feet. So it's not quite this high, but it's close and could go this high. All they got to do is drop some ballast up for those solar rays and it would pop up. Why is that significant? Well, let me do a different share. I'm going to stop. We're going to kind of jump shares here a little bit. Let me do a different share. I'm going to show you exactly why 30 kilometers is significant. And we're going to go share screen onto a PowerPoint presentation. Bada bing, bada bang. This is why 30 kilometers is significant. Let me put this in a presentation mode. While I'm here, I might as well go through these. Well, why is it not clicking over? Takes a minute sometimes. Here we go. Bada bing, bada bang. There it is, guys. 30 kilometers. This is the reach of an electromagnetic pulse from a balloon 30 kilometers up, or anything, balloon, rocket. If you're 30 kilometers up and initiate an electromagnetic pulse, this is the area that it can cover. This thing's not quite at 30 kilometers, but it's still close enough that it could create a huge EMP field on a large tract over the ground. It can still cover a state easily from the altitude that it's at, or quite a few military bases. This thing just flew over, it actually flew over Maelstrom, which has something like 150 nuclear warheads at Maelstrom Air Force Base. It's close to Minot. And see, this is the kind of stuff, and from these kind of altitudes, it could have hit probably Maelstrom and Minot, maybe a few other places too, in terms of it. Electromagnetic pulse, a high altitude electromagnetic pulse, a nuclear altitude electromagnetic, as long as a hemp. It's not the stuff that people make rope out of and do other things with. This is a nuclear device that just happens to have an acronym like that. Now, what I did was develop rockets that would have flown to over this high and launched them from balloons with a much smaller payload, guys. 1.2 tons. Guys, that can carry a lot of stuff. That can carry a rocket. They could carry a rocket with a nuke that could launch to higher altitudes. Like, the rocket I did was far, my whole payload package, my launcher, my rocket, and everything was far less in weight. My avionics, all the stuff we had on board our mission that we put out with balloons was far less in weight. I mean, we're just talking a few hundred pounds as opposed to 1 ton, 1.2 tons. Yeah, they can carry a lot of ballast, a lot of stuff to change their course. And this thing has already been started to make a course change. And that's what I would worry about. Presently, it's tracking over southeast of apparently St. Louis, and it's said to be on a track coming kind of southwest of me. Now, if they drop the wings and pick up the jet stream, they could sweep it right up over Washington, D.C. So that could still happen. There was rumors of another one that was supposedly spotted over Canada. I've not seen that yet. But let me, while I'm in this chart, I'm going to show you guys a few things real quick. Why I know something about this, just in case you didn't see this yesterday. Oh yeah, this is all about electromagnetic pulse. These are some of my missions. I'll show you a video in a little bit. Oops. That's me on a old-fashioned phone there. We're in a shop back in the mid-90s building our Space Launch 2 rocket. That was a motor case, and that was a nozzle. This is probably the test rocket that we were working on at the time. Yeah, working like at midnight. This is our avionics shop. That was Gene Young. This is Steve Mistakus. He's a major aerospace manager at Dynetics, quite a spectacular young engineer. This is our Halo SL2 rocket that hangs in the Straightdale Brewery in Huntsville, Alabama, from the ceiling to this day. It's got Halo on the fin. In case you ever in the area to see it, it's Al Wright down at the bottom. And this is our balloon we put up on NASA's Pearl River barge. We did this as a club project, joint project. NASA gave us the boat ride. So this is the first time we did a freestanding balloon inflation where we can match the speed of the wind on the deck of the boat. Problem was, because this was a barge, I couldn't get it to go fast enough to really lift the rocket off properly. That's another story. But this is Tim Pickens. He's extraordinary rocket designer, a guy who knows how to put things together. He started a company called Orion Propulsion, sold it to Dynetics. That's how come Steve Mistakus is now a manager at Dynetics. Tim, I've had Tim on my channel here before. We'll get him back. This is our balloon launch return vehicle. This is unmanned, a remote controlled rocket powered airplane for launching a balloon. This is our hybrid rocket motor, fuel grain. That's the fuel grain, and that's the oxidizer tank. Pitot tube, camera in here. We had all kind of avionics, airlines, and so forth. This is the ground test launches that we did out, and that is the balloon launch at sea. And that was us launching it from the deck of the C. Michael Calais, a utility boat operated out of Louisiana. And that little tuft of hair at the very end is me. That is yours truly. That's the way to launch it, not the way that NASA had us doing it. And this is our Hark Cat's Prize rocket. This little piece right here, I'm going to show you this piece in a minute. That is the fuel grain, and all this is oxidizer tank, insulated to maintain 750 psi on the nitrous oxide. And this is the daddy of the system that's a rocket motor for Spaceship One that won the X Prize, and the engines for the Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2, which I don't have any faith in right now. But this is our avionics. That's other reason, not because of our rocket motor. This is the avionics we developed. We didn't have cell phones back in the day. This is the launcher avionics that stayed on the balloon and took pictures. Ground stations, we built 4 of those. All right, enough of that. We'll go back there. I'm just showing you I got credentials in this area. If you don't believe I don't know something about electromagnetic pulse, I'm not going on with the science of this right now. But yes, and there is the balloon in question right there. This is it. Huge solar arrays. It is perfectly spherical. For that reason, I would say this is not a zero pressure balloon at all. To be able to carry that weight, maintain that altitude. It's got a stronger envelope than the polyethylene balloons that we flew as zero pressure balloons. But it's going to be at a lower altitude to be able to support all that weight and the weight of the extra material on the balloon. How much weight you can carry depends on how much air you displace with the balloon. The higher you go, the more rarefied it is, the harder it is to get a good bite into that. Okay, so I'm going to stop this share. In fact, I'm going to, there we go, stop the share halo. I'm going to shrink that down, and we're going to go back to these articles. I just wanted you to see some background. I shared some of that last night. Sorry for those that are watching in repeat, but we're going to go back here and look at some more stuff. I just happened to show you what I thought was important was how much area this could cover. We may have to go back to that chart because I'm going to talk about the overall threat. In fact, let me just, maybe I should do that now. I'm not going to do this. Cancel this share I started. All right, guys, listen. You could put a train of these things across. If you can launch one come across the United States, you can time launches. You know what the wind speed is. You can figure out if you want them to be so far apart when they come over the United States, you can time the launches to have them strung out like a necklace of pearls across the United States, given a certain time. I heard there was one over Canada. I haven't seen any indication that come into the States. Maybe they brought it down. You know, they could have just opened the vent at the top and brought that balloon down in the wilderness up there. Maybe they got people on the ground that went after it. picked it up from. That's been rumored there are some couple of Chinese people in the big nation of Canada, at least one or two, that might still be connected with folks back in the mainland. So, or maybe it's coming in the United States, or maybe that was something else. Who knows? The reason that these things are being spotted by civilians first and foremost, and the reason it snuck in on us the way it did is this thing is mainly a big ball of plastic. Yeah, it's a balloon. It's a high pressure balloon. It's a sophisticated balloon. It's not a party balloon. Some people think, oh, you can't take it seriously. It's a balloon. And we call it an airship. An airship is a rigid air structure. This is not an airship. By definition, for those of us in the lighter than air community, we define a airship as a rigid structure. Although the high altitude stratospheric airship term has been used kind of loosely, a blimp is a airship. It's almost an airship. It's like a balloon, basically, built with a structure that gives it a shape that's more aerodynamic and can be flown around like an airplane. A balloon typically flows with the wind, but you can change. This thing has changed course. You can change the course of a balloon by dropping ballast to make it go up, or venting some of the gas through the tube that you filled it with. Or if you really want to bring it down, you open up a vent in the top and the whole thing will come down for good. So that's different ways of controlling the altitude. If you control the altitude, you can catch winds that go in different directions. At different altitudes, winds go in different directions. This way, you can put it on a course a lot closer to where you want it to go overall. Now, all this wind in the United States this time of year is going from west to east. There is a turnaround over at least the Gulf of Mexico in some areas in the summertime. There are doldrum periods in the spring and fall where you don't really have any wind. You can just put a balloon up and just stay at one spot. So that's what to know here. Apparently, this balloon was launched from China. They could launch these off the decks of a boat if they want to control where they go a lot better. The boat launches are easy. I know. I've done it. Not once either. I've repeated it. I've been out to sea with 4 balloon inflations, okay? And I've launched balloons from the ground, including big balloons like these. So anyway, I'm going to show a bit more on that. But guys, if they had several of these, they could have one over Washington, D.C. This one is right now headed like it's going to go out the Gulf of Mexico. It's heading like it's going to pass south west of me, and it may very well do that. Or they might cut off those big solar arrays with some explosive bolts or part of them, just the ends of them, drop weight, it pop up. This thing is designed apparently to be able to operate at 30 kilometers. 30 kilometers, it catches the jet stream or some other wind. It could go out over Washington, D.C. I'll show the jet stream in a little bit. So, or they may want to just vent gas to actually drop down into the jet stream. That's really what we're talking about. They'd actually vent gas drop down into the jet stream or above the main, what we usually refer to as the jet stream. There's different jet streams, by the way, at different altitudes. And once you get above the ground, the winds pick up in velocity quite a bit. Anyway, what we call a jet stream is the ones that aircraft deal with typically. So, all right, let's do this. Let's go now into share, because what I just explained is you could put a necklace of these across the United States and detonate them all at once if you want to do an EMP. You could have one over Washington, D.C., one here in the middle of the country, and one up over the missile bases where this one was at first. And what you could deliver is very concentrated electromagnetic pulse. The EMP super weapons are rated at 200,000 volts per meter. The old mill standard for hard and mill hard facilities was 50,000 volts per meter, way short. The new standard is like 85,000, still short, still short. Have you had a super EMP detonated over the middle of the United States? Now, I do not believe that they were going to launch an EMP attack on us, that they would do this in isolation with 1 balloon or 2 balloons or even 3 balloons detonating regional EMPs. Somebody says, oh, they're not going to do it. No, I never said that. I don't think that. I've always said what Dr. Peter Vincent Pry has long taught is that it would be a multi-pronged attack if they hit us. If they were going to hit the MPs as soon as they were ready for these to detonate, they would have another one en route coming in. It could be from one of China's new hypersonic missiles, so flying low and then pop up. Or it could be coming in from a ballistic missile, maybe from the Gulf of Mexico, where we're not monitoring anything, come right up over the middle of the United States. Or they may focus them on the eastern seaboard to take out our command and control structure over there. Guys, it would be a multi-pronged attack just from EMP standpoint. So if they do that, then they would take out our grid. That would give them more assurance of taking. One would take out the grid over the United States. All these other ones would be to put special focus on military hardened facilities so that they wouldn't have to counterstrike with nukes to take out our bases. No, and wouldn't just take out the missiles. The aircraft on the ground are going to be fried too. And our command and control structure that communicates with their submarines to deliver those EAMs that enable them to launch would be fried. That would be their goal, is to fry all those avions. They wouldn't have to launch any nukes at the United States. We would be paralyzed. We wouldn't be able to launch a thing if they did it properly, but it would coincide with other attacks. Multi-pronged means they would hit us with all kind of massive cyber attacks, and there would be guys on the ground taking out critical power grid substations. Iran told us they already had 20 sleeper cells. China probably has them. Russia may have them. And they probably collaborate now. They're probably, because China, Russia, and India are, Iran are this tight. India and China are not tight. They're almost at war. But that's why these sleeper cells may be in communications. They may be in cahoots with each other to instigate this multi-pronged attack approach. All right, I've beat on this enough. I'm just telling you guys that this is not necessarily what's going to happen. It's what can happen. This could be a dry run for that. They may just be testing to see what they can do with this balloon. It may not have anything on it other than scientific measurement. But yeah, I think they're taking intel. They're taking electronic intel. Look, this thing's got at least 3, maybe 5 kW of electrical power on board. That is a huge amount of power, a lot more than our military balloon sets that we send up, way more than they have. And they have very sophisticated instrument suites on those. And I had good instrument suites on mine at far less weight, far less power, far less power, far less weight. So this thing, they could have a good sized rocket on this balloon inside whatever kind of a gondola structure they got, aimed right up with could have a nuke on it. So that warhead could be sent to a higher altitude to deliver a wider range if that's what they said they want to do. I would think, though, if they want to focus on specific areas, this is a pretty good way to get at it. They may have other weapon systems that would also reinforce local high-intensity EMPs in addition to some high-altitude EMPs at space itself. Like it could just be in a satellite going overhead, just detonates. You wouldn't expect anything. Boom. What's going to happen? Just an EMP. You're not going to die immediately. All you know is your lights went out. It's like a regular day at first, but you can't find out from anybody. Why? Because everybody else's power's down. The media's down. Okay, well, power's out. Right, cool. Let's cook some hot dogs. And about a week later, you're going to be starving. And 3 weeks later, your neighbors are going to be looking to eat you. Don't be the lawn porter. Something I tell people a lot. All right, now, so let's look at these other articles here. I do not want this to go all day. I repeated some of this stuff, but I'm going to show you who is the source of this blame. I'm showing you why that 30 kilometers is vital. Let's go back to share screen. We're going to go back to the articles. That is why this 30 kilometers is vital. I've explained it now. Now you understand. But this is not the upper limit. If this balloon is a raccoon balloon, a balloon with a rocket known as a raccoon, like the kinds I used to launch 23 years ago on a shoestring budget, not backed by the budget of China and the Academy of Science. Some guys working out of garages, okay, guys? It was not a government program. Somebody said, hey, there's a government. No, it was not a government. I showed you the garages where we were building this stuff. All right. So I had the High Altitude Research Corporation. For that, we had the Project Halo program, High Altitude Liftoff. There was a program of my Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society, which is a chapter of the National Space Society, which I later spent 10 years as chairman of the policy committee in. Okay, so I know something about these things. So they're saying that they conducted that test launch in the Chinese province of Qinghai. Forgive me, that's not my area to pronounce these things, okay? And this is supposedly an image of that, but at altitude, this would be a total sphere once it's filled out fully. But it won't go any higher. We had vent tubes on the ones I launched. I launched zero pressure balloons The only super pressure balloons I launched were latex. They would keep extending until they burst, but you could control that by having some means to vent gas and having a more robust material. It won't bust so easy, but setting the payload and the displacement for a specific altitude. There are ways to get around. There's a lot of trades on that. I'm not going to go all into that because I don't plan for this to be a scientific video. I could go into that. Maybe I will on Galactic Gregs eventually. So just to show you, there's a couple articles out there on these balloons. Interesting. So I thought I had one from, let's see, here it is. Now this is another article on that balloon from Space Daily. Oh, why are they trying to advertise this junk? Gosh almighty. I am not trying to buy a bikini. Oh my God, I look horrible. Anyway, what fit? The military has their own combat skysats. This is something that Lee Wheelbarger's worked with. You know, I did a video with him last night. All right, so here's what, you know, some of these Chinese experts are sounding an alarm over this balloon. He says it's very dangerous what they're doing. As Lee pointed out last night, they could be snooping and getting the all the electronic call and phone information. This is one thing I hate about Fox. I almost don't even want to go to Fox News because when you open their website, it just starts blah, 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 blah. I hate that. I don't nothing go. And when you pull off the video, it pops up somewhere else. I double hate that. Anyway, so just to show you guys, Gordon Chang, you know, he's sitting here telling us about this. There's some of the places it was, but I ain't got to tell you why he says it's dangerous. I already tell you it's a dangerous. China's clear and present danger to American cyber security. Oh yeah, this definitely fits in that category. Look, this is an affront to our country, the fact that they could fly this thing over and do what it's doing. So let me show you the ULDB. This is probably a cross between that ComSat and this ULDB. This ULDB, it can fly. It's ultra long duration balloon developed by this was developed by Aerostar, this company right here, Aerostar, Raven Aerostar, in conjunction with NASA. And they have a record mission of 100 days with this balloon, which, you know, the zero pressure balloons like I normally do are only good for a couple, 3 days usually. But this thing can go much longer. It's a high pressure balloon. It's got higher strength gore panels. It's these things get very high. These can go higher than 30 kilometers. My balloons would go 20 miles or higher. Just to give you an example, the balloon we're seeing, though, is apparently running about 60,000 feet right now. This is the Aerostar website. Mike Smith. Oh, they quoted Mike Smith here. Yeah, our engineer staff can trace this technical lineage all the way back to the invention of the modern stratospheric balloon. Yeah, I got pictures of Mike Smith with me on my boats. I'll have to show you that in a minute. I didn't know he was quoted in here. He was a chief engineer of Raven Aerostar, developing these high altitude balloons. I know Mike. He's a buddy of mine. He and I jointly wrote a scientific paper together. The only published scientific paper I actually wrote. I wrote other stuff, but not published in that fashion. So here's the Marine SkySat combat site. That's the latex balloon there, but they've got some other heavier duty plastic materials they fly them in. It's all about displacement. Anyway, I'll show you the winds for 48,000 feet. That's a little bit lower than the balloon's at. This is what aircraft look at. This is at 13.5 kilometers. This is still underneath where this balloon's at. Apparently, it's coming down this way. If you arrive at the jet stream, it'll take you out in another direction entirely. Do I still have that link open? Yeah. If you get into the jet stream, now if it's coming down like Alabama, and then they change the altitude to get it into the jet stream, maybe vent some gas, and it gets this, it's going to take it right up over Washington, D.C. Maybe north of Washington, D.C. 30 kilometers here, it'll take you out. Everything from Boston through Washington, D.C. It would take this whole area out with an EMP if this is what they were doing. That's what I'm saying. An EMP from here could take out that whole area. Another balloon coming up could take out the missile bases up here. That's why you need to be concerned with stuff. So if you got a couple balloons, 2, 3, or 4 balloons, they could do a lot of damage in this country. I kid you not. So real quickly, I will show you. There's the Combat SkySat. And I'm going to show you a couple other balloon videos. You might even see a picture of Mike Smith in here.
How to triple.
Uh-oh. This is our Hart Cat prize balloon. This is not a monetized channel, but YouTube runs ads on
your
everything.
client's traffic in just 7 months.
Hang on, guys.
Start by fixing on-page SEO and easily.
Let's take it back again. I'm thinking this is Mike Smith right here. This is yeah, this is my Hart Cat's prize, cheap access to space prize rocket, being lofted by a balloon. This could hit over 100 kilometers. Watch my balloon. A rocket like this. This one had a bit of a defect in it, but that's another story. This rocket was capable of that. This would be my, that is Glenn May, I believe, right there. Could be Mike Smith, but I think that's Glenn May. I believe this is Mike Smith. No, that would be Mike Smith right there. There we are. It's October 2000. 23 years ago almost. Yeah, it's overhead. You wouldn't want that to happen. It's overhead. All right, I'll show you another video of firing the rocket. Commercial. Come on. Update. Refresh it. Oh, it's going to another video. I hate it when it goes to a different video. Back. There we are. For the plan. How come it don't mind me and spam when I ask it to? Oh gosh, I hate having to re-click stuff over and over. And then it goes to the other video. I ain't even finished playing it. It kicks over. I hate some of these applications. I am not going to replay this. I'm not going to edit it. I don't have time in my life to edit videos. Holy smoke. Oh, stop share. I got to make the whole thing smaller. I got to hit the escape button on it. Hit the back arrow at the top. I hate when videos do that to me. Oh, wow. Now it just kicked it totally out and went back to YouTube, picked a bunch of videos page. Oh, my God. And then when I start it, it starts playing off the bat. All right, here we go. I'm going to hit share again. This is aggravating. Let me try to make it larger. Will this work? Yeah, but what's my share button? I have the share button. I do that. All right, guys, bear with me a minute. I am sorry. I know y'all don't like this. Technically, I should hit the replay. I don't have time to edit videos, guys. I don't have the time. It takes hours. It takes hours for me to do stuff. And I don't have time to sleep, guys. So bear with me. Sorry about that. Hang on. Share screen again. Here we go. So we had telemetry downlink. This is coming balloon uplink avionics module. You see the balloon's fully inflated. There goes the rocket right there. off to the left. See that again in a minute. There goes the rocket off to the left. See how bright the balloon is, how dark it is now? It's daylight. You're looking up at the blackness of space. Yeah, it's black. If it were a dome, as some people think, it wouldn't look black. All right. See the vent tubes all around it for venting out excess air. We had 4 vent tubes on this. That was a gondola. And this thing shot up in the air. Oops. At this point. All right, enough of that. Stop it. And we'll close it down. I'll stop share. There we go. These apps don't work together too well. All right, guys. So there we are. Oh, yeah. I was going to show you the motor section. Remember the little puny section? Let me do another share. Go back to PowerPoint. Find the right picture. Go. I'll do a share on that if it'll let me. Share screen. Bada bing. All right, guys, you see this right here. So I'm going to show you this piece in a minute. Oh, yeah, let's see. Move. That's Mike Smith right there. Gene Hornbuckle, Glenn May. Glenn May died in the cold flow test of the Spaceship 2 motor in Mojave Desert. That is me again, right there, little tough, little blondish hair. It's on the C. Michael Calais. Stop share. Bada bing, bada bang. And that little black section is this piece. This is my Heart's Cat's Prize rocket motor. This was a test motor. We did not burn all the fuel grain out of it. We put it through a short test firing. This was fired on the rocket motor test stand. It's out in my backyard now. You might have seen it on a couple of my Galactic Greg's videos. I have done a couple of videos from this test stand. All right, that's enough said. I just wanted y'all to see that. Think about that. Think about this balloon. The bottom line is this. This balloon is taking intel. It could sweep up the military members' phones, phone numbers, messages, contact stuff. It get very vital information on the military members. It could probably get some more information on the bases, on the comm systems used at the bases, which, you know, since the Chinese are buying fields next to our military bases and putting in facilities at these places, they could use those for dual use and a war against the United States. Why do we let them do this? Why? Why? Now, at 60,000 feet, this thing would be very difficult to intercept. Most of our aircraft fly at 40, 45,000 feet. Getting some at 60,000 is tough. Yeah, the SR-71 could do it. The F-4 Phantom could do it. But a jet plane is not going to take something that's, you know, over 120 foot in diameter and capture it. Oh, no. You're going to get that thing wrapped around you and you're going to crash if you're not careful. You don't want that anywhere near your regular aircraft. We used to have a system that would drop film canisters from satellites. The film canisters would come in a little reentry vehicle, nose cone, and pop out a parachute, and then this aircraft would fly over and grab the parachute, snag the parachute lines. That's how we used to get photographs back from satellites. It used to be the only way we had, because we didn't have the telemetry downlink, the technology. We did not have that kind of stuff back in the day. It was all film. We had to get the film back in the hands of somebody to develop it to know what we were going to look at on the ground. But now we've got all this is digitized. So some people think those older photographs were not photographs. Wrong. CGI did not exist in those days. So guys, there we are. There is the basics. This thing could possibly be an EMP weapon. It still could be. It still could be detonated if that were the case. It's still over the United States. It could be a dry running just to see what they can get away with. It could be entirely just a spy balloon. They say it's a weather balloon. They don't need over 3 kW of power to run weather monitoring. No, We've flown weather sondes. Weather sondes typically fly on latex balloons. A little 6-pound package give you all the data you need. Of course, you know, if you want to target missile reentries to know how the winds are doing, you know, balloon sondes are a good way to do that. But they can launch those locally with latex balloons too. We got so many potential covert agents here in America. So I don't see them just going up and grabbing this thing, not at 60,000 feet. If you want to recover it, shoot the balloon. Balloon deflates, it comes down. It's going to crash somewhere. Most places are fields, forests in this country. Chance it's going to hit somebody, very low, especially if they choose where they shoot it at. You can model if the balloon pops, where the payload's going to hit the ground just by looking at winds analysis. We used to do that. And we used that to predict where our balloons were going to land at. So that's how we used to do it 20 some odd years ago right here. Of course, do that better now. So that's the thing. Most of that stuff will hit. A lot of it will shatter. But, you know, look, we recover shattered rockets and aircraft all the time. We can figure out what the parts were in them. We can figure out the technology used, what it was all about by recovering crashed, derelict stuff. There you are. So the notion we're just going to snag it, no. How great, we'll wait till it gets over the ocean. No, salt water would corrode the heck out of all electronics. You want to bring it down over land. A lot of people are in my chats have put, I should have said this up front. A lot of people in my chats have been talking about fear of biologicals from this. Guys, I don't think they would at all use this as a method to disperse biologicals. It'd be a very, very, very ineffective means for doing that, because it's 60,000 feet and up. These little, if you're spraying viruses and bacteria and fungus, you're up above with the ultraviolet light is much more intense up there. It's going to kill these organisms. It will do it out in regular sunlight. It's going to kill them. And if you let it go at night, most of these organisms aren't going to just fall straight to the ground. They're going to float around for a while and eventually come down like dust. It's like dust. They're not going to come down fast. So even if you release them at night, it's probably going to be the next day or two before they waft away the ground. The ultraviolet's going to get them, and they're going to be so dispersed that their effectiveness would be very, 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 very little. Yeah, sure, you get one virus, you could get sick from it, one bacteria, but your biggest chance of getting sick is when you get a bunch of them, get an overload in your immune system that it can't handle. Then you get sick. Usually getting onesie twosies, it can happen, but that's not as likely. You get a virus, and if you get a huge viral overload, you tend to be even sicker. Viral overload is key in pathology. So in any event, that's what I know about this thing, is that I don't think it's a bio dispenser. I think it's intel, and it may possibly be an EMP device. I've had some people challenge me on that, says it would be ineffective because you can't get precision. You don't need precision EMP because you got a huge coverage range anyway, even at 30 kilometers. Even if the altitude is at 60,000 feet, you still have a huge track of coverage if you want to do an intense, concentrated EMP over a specific area of the ground. So it's possible. You know, it may not happen this time. I don't think they're ready for that at this point, but I could be wrong. They may know something we don't know. I don't think that's what is going to happen this week, but it could. China may know something we don't know. They may have a trick up their sleeve. The essence of winning is the art. It's surprise attack. That is the essence of winning. Surprise attack and first strikes. But this would not be in isolation. This would just be, oh, it's just look at that little cute balloon flying over. Oh, there's another one. Ain't that cute? Boom. Lights go out. I don't know, guys, but they could launch a rocket from it. Look, they got 1.2 tons of payload possible there. Yeah, they're going to have a lot of sand for ballast. At 1.2 tons, that is a lot of capacity. The power on board is a lot of capacity. They could carry a rocket and a nuke on the rocket and launch it up to a higher altitude. Oh yeah, the one thing let me mention again, launched, the higher you launch, and once you get above 40,000 feet, there are airplane launched rockets that launch at 40,000 feet. The higher you go, the more advantage you get. Once you're up 60,000, especially up 80,000 feet, from that point, a rocket will go 4 times further than it would at that point we're on the ground. So let me explain it. So if you launch at 100,000 feet and your rocket just go 1,000 feet, so you got a little rocket and only go 1,000 feet. Well, that 1,000-foot rocket launch from 100,000 feet will go not 101,000, it'll go 104,000. If that rocket would go 30,000, oh yeah, you see what I'm saying? It's 120,000 on top of the 20,000. So you'd, instead of being at 20 miles, you'd be up, 30, what I say, 100,000, 20. So yeah, you're hitting space. There you go, guys. That's what we're talking about. That is what we're talking about. You'd have another 80,000. You'd be over 100,000 feet up, above that. Oh, yeah. So this is what we're talking about, guys. This is a lot of capacity. Oh yeah, I've launched rockets from the ground that hit 30,000 feet. That was my very first rocket I ever launched. My first rocket hit 30,000 feet. So think about that. That was not the biggest rocket I ever launched either. So there you are, guys. Think about it. It's not trivial. We were guys working out of a garage, a couple garages on a shoestring budget 23 years ago at the latest. I mean, most of the stuff's like 25, 30 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. That photograph I showed you in the garage was almost 30 years ago. Kid you not. All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching. With that, I'm going to say, subscribe, bang the notification bell. Guys, listen, if you're not prepping, you're not paying attention. We are at risk. Our power grid goes down. You're going to be in big trouble. I would say grow your own food. I got links to seed companies below. You need worms with your garden. You can buy worms from me at greengregs.com. But get the long-term food storage. Check with prepwithgreg.com. We got a great special there right now for long-term food storage. Prepwithgreg.com. And with that, I'm going to say thank y'all for